He's younger than you, and all the women around will be obsessed with your relationship. What is it about this specific connection that makes it spark so much intensity right now? It is the pure, unfiltered contrast between your seasoned confidence and his raw, untamed energy that creates a gravitational pull no one can ignore. You represent stability and a deep, knowing calm, while he brings a fire and a thirst for new experiences that makes everything feel dangerous and exciting. People are watching because they see a dynamic that shouldn't work on paper, yet it is undeniably electric in reality. Why does he feel so drawn to you despite the gap in your life stages? He sees in you a fortress of self-assuredness that he is only just beginning to build for himself. He doesn't want someone who is learning the ropes. He wants someone who already owns the room, someone whose approval feels like a hard-won prize. To him, you aren't just a partner. You are an aspiration. And the fact that he has managed to capture your attention gives him a rush of adrenaline that makes him feel like he can conquer anything. How do the women in his social circle react when they see him with you? They are absolutely consumed by a mix of confusion, envy, and fascination. Some of them have spent years trying to mold him into their ideal version of a partner, only to watch him walk away effortlessly to be with you. Seeing him look at you with such total focus and reverence acts like a mirror to them, forcing them to question why they couldn't command that same level of devotion. It makes your bond a public spectacle because it challenges their own sense of worth and their understanding of how attraction is supposed to work. Why does the world feel like it is leaning in whenever the two of you enter a space together? It is because you are defying the typical scripts people use for relationships. You move with a level of comfort that doesn't need to explain itself, and he moves with a protective, slightly defiant edge that suggests he is ready to take on anyone who doesn't see your value. That combination creates an aura of exclusivity that is intoxicating to outsiders. People don't just look because you are a couple, they look because they are trying to figure out the secret ingredient that holds it all together. What is driving the obsession from those on the sidelines? It is the lack of visible struggle between you. Usually people expect a younger partner and an older partner to constantly deal with friction or power imbalances, but they see you two navigating life as a unified front. That harmony drives the observers crazy. They are constantly waiting for the cracks to show, for the reality to set in, but instead, they just witness you getting stronger. The obsession is born from a desperate, subconscious need to understand why this unconventional choice is yielding such a high reward. Will this level of outside attention eventually start to wear on the connection? It will actually act as a catalyst that pulls you even closer together. Every time someone tries to insert their opinion or project their judgment onto your choices, it just reminds him of why he chose you in the first place, because you don't play by their rules. That shared secrecy, that us against the world feeling, builds a wall around your private life that no one else can penetrate. The more they stare, the tighter the bond becomes, because he realizes that you are the only person who truly sees him, and you realize that he is the only one bold enough to stand by your side without flinching. What makes him feel so confident about defending this dynamic against the whispers and the side eyes he gets from his own peers? It's the simple fact that he's realized he was living a boring, cookie-cutter existence before he met you. When his friends make comments or drop hints about how he should be with someone his own age, he looks at them and sees people who are essentially settling for mediocrity. He knows that the version of himself he shows to you, the one that is more ambitious, more articulate, and more emotionally aware, doesn't even exist when he's around them. He's not defending you against them. He's defending his own evolution. He views your relationship as a promotion, a step up in the quality of his life, and that makes him completely immune to the peer pressure that would have easily crushed him a few years ago. Why does the physical chemistry feel so much more heightened whenever you are in a public setting where people are watching? It's because there is a silent, unspoken pact between the two of you that fuels the fire. You both know that everyone is dissecting your body language, looking for signs of fatigue or detachment, and that external scrutiny acts like a high-voltage current. It forces you both to be hyper-aware of each other's presence. When he touches your arm or leans in close to whisper in your ear, he is making a statement. He is intentionally telegraphing to the world that you are his and that he is proud to be seen with you. It's a power move. The friction of being observed turns every stolen glance into an act of rebellion, and that keeps the sexual tension at a boiling point that most couples never reach. How does he handle the specific, pointed questions from women who are clearly trying to bait him into admitting he's just going through a phase? He handles them with a chilling, polite detachment that leaves them feeling incredibly foolish. He doesn't get defensive, and he doesn't try to justify his choices with long explanations, because he knows that would give them the satisfaction of feeling like they have a valid point. Instead, he just smiles, a knowing, slightly pitying smile, and changes the subject, or gives a short, cryptic answer that leaves them guessing. He loves watching them lose their composure. He finds it hilarious that they think they know what's best for him when they don't even have a fraction of the depth you possess. He uses their own insecurity against them, turning their curiosity into a testament to how unattainable you are. What is it about your reaction to the drama that makes him admire you even more? He loves the fact that you barely even register the background noise. While other women in his circle might start fights, gossip, or act out to secure their position, you move with the quiet grace of someone who is completely secure in her own skin. When he tells you about the things people have said or the looks he's received, you don't demand validation or get insecure. You just give him a look that says you've seen it all before. That level of unflappable poise makes him feel like he's safe. He knows that with you, there is no unnecessary chaos. You aren't playing the game that everyone else is playing, and that makes him feel like he's finally found the one person who isn't trying to use him for status or attention. Does he ever worry that the obsession others have with your relationship will eventually manifest into real-life interference? He thinks about it, but he isn't afraid of it. In fact, he kind of welcomes the idea of someone trying to interfere because he wants the opportunity to shut it down. He is hungry for the chance to draw a hard line in the sand. There is a part of him, the masculine, protective, territorial part, that wants to be tested. He wants to prove to himself and to everyone watching that he is capable of standing firm. He's tired of being the nice, agreeable kid. He wants to be the man who protects what is his. The interference isn't a threat. It's a stage for him to show his true colors. And he knows that every time he shuts someone down, it's just another brick in the foundation of your future. Why is he so much more generous with his time and his energy when he is with you compared to how he acts with anyone else? He doesn't view his time with you as a transaction or a chore. He views it as an investment. With his friends or other casual connections, he feels like he has to constantly perform, keep his guard up, and play the role of the guy who is fun and easygoing. With you, the mask comes off. He is generous because he is genuinely interested in what you have to say, how you think, and how you view the world. He's a sponge around you, soaking up your wisdom, your perspective, and your energy. He gives you his best because you've never asked for anything less. It's a self-sustaining cycle. He gives his best, you appreciate it without needing more, and that makes him want to give even more. What is the biggest misconception people have about why he is with an older woman? They think it's about something shallow, either that he's looking for a mother figure or that he's just doing it for the thrill of the taboo. They are so wrong. It's not about those external factors at all. It's about the fact that he was starving for intellectual and emotional substance, and you were the only one serving a full-course meal. He doesn't want a peer who is as confused and lost as he is. He wants a guide, a partner, and an equal who has already navigated the traps and pitfalls of life. He's not looking for a shortcut. He's looking for depth, and that is something that is rarely found in people his own age. He finds the taboo label laughable because it just highlights how small and limited the imaginations of those around him are. How does he describe your impact on his trajectory in life when he talks to his most trusted confidants? He speaks about you with a mix of awe and gratitude. He tells them that before you, he felt like he was drifting through a gray, monotonous landscape. You gave him color. You gave him a sense of purpose. He admits that he wasn't even aware of how many of his own potential paths were blocked until you started opening doors for him, just by showing him how you move through your own life. He describes you as the anchor that keeps him steady during his most turbulent moments and the wind in his sails when he needs to push forward. He is fully aware that he is a better version of himself because of you, and he doesn't care who knows it. Will the intensity of this connection eventually lead to a shift in how you both choose to present yourselves to the world? It already is shifting. You're both moving away from trying to explain yourselves or seek external validation and moving toward a state of total, unapologetic ownership of your reality. You'll find that as the obsession of those around you grows, you both just get quieter, closer, and more focused on each other. The drama becomes something that happens miles away from your actual life. You stop engaging with the noise because you've realized that the noise is just a testament to your success. You aren't just living, you're thriving in a way that makes others feel small, and that is the ultimate victory. The more they watch, the more you both realize that they are just spectators in a movie they weren't invited to star in, and you are the ones directing the entire show. Why does he find it so incredibly exhilarating when someone makes a backhanded comment about your age gap in his presence? It's because he loves watching the gears turn in their heads as they realize they've completely misread the room. When they try to imply that he's wasting his prime or being led astray, he feels a sudden surge of superiority. He knows something they don't. He knows that the intimacy, the conversation, and the sheer level of support he gets from you is something they couldn't provide if they had 1,000 years to practice. Their ignorance isn't just annoying to him, it's a source of entertainment. It confirms that he has found a diamond in the rough while they are still fighting over pebbles. He feeds off that misunderstanding, using it to fuel his own commitment. It's like he's playing a high-stakes game where he's the only one who knows where the treasure is buried, and he loves keeping them guessing. What is it about the way you handle his occasional bouts of restlessness that makes him feel like he can't ever walk away? You don't try to cage him, and you don't panic when he needs space to run or explore his own interests. Most women his age are so terrified of losing their status that they suffocate him with constant monitoring, but you operate from a place of total abundance. You're busy living your own incredible life, and that independence is the ultimate aphrodisiac. When he realizes that you don't need him to stay, he wants to stay more than anything. He feels a primal urge to prove that he is the one who deserves to be by your side. He's obsessed with the idea of being the one constant in your world, not because you're dependent on him, but because he's earned his place at your table. Why do the people who used to be his inner circle suddenly feel like strangers to him? It's because he's outgrown their frequency. He remembers a time when talking about mundane dramas or superficial goals was all they had in common, but after spending time in your orbit, he realizes that those conversations are hollow. He's looking for depth now, and when he goes back to them, he feels like he's speaking a language they don't understand. He sees them trying to drag him back into their petty cycles of drama and shallow validation, and he just doesn't have the patience for it anymore. He's evolved, and that evolution is directly tied to the standards you set. He's realized that his time is the most valuable commodity he has, and he's not willing to waste another second of it on people who aren't interested in growth. How does he internalize the way you look at him when you think no one is watching? That look is his fuel. When you look at him with that specific mix of pride and intrigue, he feels like he's capable of anything. It's not just a look of affection, it's a look of recognition. You see his potential, you see his fire, and you respect it. He knows that he has a lot of growing left to do, but he's not afraid of the process because he has you as his witness. That look makes him feel seen on a level that nobody else has ever achieved. It creates an internal feedback loop where he wants to keep refining himself just so he can keep earning that specific look from you. It's the ultimate validation, and it's why he's so fiercely protective of your private moments. Why does he feel a sudden, intense need to distance himself from the noise of social expectations when he's around you? It's because the contrast is too sharp to ignore. When he's out in the world, he feels the weight of everyone's projections, everyone telling him how he should act, who he should be with, and what his life should look like by his age. But when he crosses the threshold into your world, all that noise drops away. It's quiet, it's focused, and it's real. He realizes that the expectations everyone else is pushing are just chains, and you are the only one who doesn't have a chain to offer him. He treasures that sanctuary because he knows it's rare. He's willing to fight to protect that peace, even if it means cutting off relationships or changing his entire environment just to keep the energy around you clean. What does he think when he sees the jealousy radiating off other women? He finds it absolutely fascinating, in a clinical, detached sort of way. He likes to observe how they try to undermine you with subtle digs or helpful advice, and he finds it hilarious that they think he's dumb enough to fall for it. He feels like he's watching a low-budget performance. He uses these moments to assess how much he really values them, and the answer is usually, not at all. Every time they try to cause friction, they just inadvertently push him closer to you. They don't realize that by attacking the relationship, they are just proving to him that he made the right choice. He's effectively weaponizing their jealousy to deepen his own loyalty. How does his perspective on maturity change when he compares his past experiences to your current dynamic? He realizes that he had been confusing maturity with rigidity. He used to think being with someone his own age would be easier because they would share the same references in the same life stage, but he found that just meant they were both equally lost in the same maze. With you, he sees that maturity isn't about age at all. It's about emotional intelligence, boundaries, and the ability to handle complexity. He's learned that he actually prefers the challenge of being with someone who has seen the world and knows how to navigate it, rather than someone who is still throwing tantrums over the rules of the game. He's traded easier for better, and he would never go back. What is the biggest thing he is currently learning from you that he didn't even know he needed? He is learning the power of stillness. He was raised in a culture of hustle, always moving, always proving, always reacting. You are teaching him that the most powerful moves are often the ones you make in silence. You're showing him how to hold space for himself, how to filter out the nonsense, and how to trust his own intuition even when the crowd is shouting in the opposite direction. He's learning how to command a room without saying a word, and he's learning that his silence is a tool of control that he can use to keep people off balance. He's becoming a different kind of man because of this, and he knows that the transformation is only just beginning. Why does he feel that this relationship is a test of his own character? Because he knows that loving you, with all the baggage of public opinion and the inherent differences in your lives, is the ultimate act of courage. It's easy to do what everyone else does. It's easy to pick the safe choice. Choosing you is the hard path, and he knows that. He likes that it's hard. He likes that there's an obstacle course to navigate because it makes the destination so much sweeter. He feels like he's forging a new identity for himself, one where he isn't afraid of being judged, where he doesn't need anyone else's permission to be happy. He's testing himself to see if he's got what it takes to be the man who stands next to you, and every day he passes that test is a victory that he carries with him like a trophy. Does he worry that the obsession from others might actually hide a deeper, more malicious intent? He's not naive, so he knows it's a possibility, but that only sharpens his resolve. He doesn't think they're just being gossipy. He thinks they're being predatory. He's noticed the way some people look at the stability you've created, and he knows that if they could, they would try to break it. But that realization doesn't make him pull away. It makes him double down. He's becoming the guardian of this bond, and he's watching everything with eagle eyes. He's ready to strike at the first sign of real trouble, and he wants you to know that while you are the one with the wisdom, he is the one with the sword. He's fully prepared to go to war for this, and he's looking forward to seeing who has the guts to try to take it from him. How does he handle the realization that he has become the envy of his own male peer group, who now constantly try to extract information from him about what it's like to be with you? He deals with it by playing the role of the inscrutable gatekeeper. When they poke and prod, asking about the nature of your connection or trying to find a logical reason why you'd be with him, he gives them nothing. He loves the power dynamic shift. He knows they are secretly furious that they couldn't secure someone of your caliber, and he enjoys watching them sweat. He's become expert at giving vague, satisfyingly cryptic answers that make them even more obsessed. He's realized that the less he shares, the more mysterious and desirable you appear to them, and that's exactly how he wants it. He protects your privacy not just out of love, but out of a sense of possessive pride. He knows that you are the only thing in his life that truly matters, and he isn't going to let them dilute that by making you a topic of their casual locker room talk. Why does he feel a deeper sense of urgency to succeed in his own life now that you are in it? It's because he's finally got something to live up to. Before you, he was just drifting, doing the bare minimum to get by. But now he feels the weight of your expectations, not because you've put them on him, but because he's put them on himself. He doesn't want to just be the guy with the amazing partner. He wants to be the guy who is worthy of that partner. He wants to be able to look you in the eye and know that he is pulling his own weight in every conceivable way. That drive has turned his previously scattered energy into a laser-focused ambition. He's working harder, taking more risks, and planning for the long term because he's finally realized that if he wants to keep you, he has to be the best version of himself every single day. What is the specific change in his demeanor when he's around you versus when he's alone or with his friends that reveals how much he's changed? When he's with his friends, he's still prone to outbursts of bravado, constant joking, and a need to be the center of attention. But when he's with you, all that performance disappears. He becomes grounded, attentive, and incredibly observant. He stops talking just to fill the silence and starts listening to understand. He's learned how to be vulnerable without being weak, and he's learned that he doesn't need to dominate the conversation to feel important. That shift in his personality is so profound that even his closest friends have noticed it, and they don't know whether to be impressed or annoyed. They see a man who has suddenly acquired depth and poise, and they know that you are the architect of that change. How does he reconcile the fear that you might eventually outgrow him with the reality of how much he is currently growing? It's a constant low-level hum of anxiety in the back of his mind, but it acts as a permanent motivator rather than a deterrent. He knows you have a depth of experience he can't replicate, so he compensates by being the most supportive, present, and reliable partner he can possibly be. He doesn't try to compete with your past. Instead, he focuses on being the best present. He's realized that you aren't looking for a carbon copy of yourself, but someone who complements you. He takes comfort in the fact that you choose to stay, and every day you spend together is further proof that he's doing something right. He's fighting the fear of being left behind by running as fast as he can alongside you, and he's finding that the more he pushes himself, the more he realizes he can keep up. Why does the obsession surrounding your relationship feel so different to him than any other attention he's received in his life? In the past, the attention he got from others was based on his potential, his looks, or his status. It was all very shallow and focused on what he could do for them. The current obsession surrounding you is different because it's based on something he can't easily explain, an aura of power and legitimacy that you both project. He's noticed that people look at him differently now, with a mixture of respect, suspicion, and curiosity. They aren't just looking at him as an individual anymore. They are looking at him as part of a unit. He likes that feeling. It makes him feel like he's part of a superior entity, and it validates his decision to commit to you completely. He's no longer just a guy. He's part of a partnership that the rest of the world can't quite figure out, and that exclusivity is the greatest status symbol he's ever had. Does he feel a sense of relief in letting go of his previous attempts to maintain a cool and detached image? Absolutely. He used to spend so much energy trying to project an image of effortless perfection. But with you, he's learned that real strength is found in being authentic and transparent. You've taught him that he doesn't have to be perfect to be worthy of love. He just has to be real. That realization was like a heavy weight being lifted off his shoulders. He stopped trying to impress the world and started focusing on building something lasting with you. It's liberating. He's realized that the people who were impressed by his cool act were never really interested in him as a person, and the only person whose opinion actually matters is sitting right across from him. How does he perceive the karmic weight of this situation, given that it seems to be disrupting the status quo of everyone in his orbit? He has a strange, almost superstitious feeling that this relationship was meant to happen exactly when it did. He feels like he was pulled out of a rut, and you were the hand that reached down to grab him. He's aware that your presence is acting like a wrecking ball to the lives and relationships of people around him, shattering their illusions, exposing their cracks, and forcing them to face their own unhappiness. He doesn't feel guilty about that, though. He views it as a natural consequence of your presence. He feels like a protector of that disruption, and he's fascinated by how you simply exist, and yet, just by being yourself, you make everyone else have to scramble to keep up. He thinks it's brilliant. Why is he so determined to keep the core of your intimacy a secret from the prying eyes of the public? He knows that the moment you let people in on the why and the how of your connection, you're inviting them to tear it apart with their opinions. He's seen how other people's relationships suffer because they make themselves accessible for public consumption. He's terrified that if he talks too much or shows too much, he'll lose the sacredness of what you have. So he keeps his mouth shut. He lets them gossip, he lets them wonder, and he lets them speculate, because that keeps the mystery alive. He knows that as long as they don't know the full truth, they can't successfully attack it. Your privacy is his primary defense strategy, and he's committed to it for the long haul. What does he dream about for the future of this dynamic that he's afraid to say out loud? He dreams of a future where you are so established as a pair that the gossip becomes entirely irrelevant. He wants to reach a point where you are completely untouchable, where your life together is so rock solid that any attempt to interfere from the outside just bounces off like rain on a window pane. He wants to build a legacy with you, something that lasts way beyond the initial fascination of the people watching you now. He's looking for something permanent, something that changes the game entirely, and he knows that he is the one who has to provide the stability for that to happen. He's dreaming of a day when people stop asking why and start accepting that you are a force of nature that can't be stopped. How does he view the aging process now, considering he is with someone who is further along that path than he is? He's lost all fear of it. Before he met you, he was terrified of getting older, worried that he would lose his edge or his appeal. But watching you handle your own life with such confidence has shifted his entire paradigm. He sees that getting older isn't about fading away. It's about becoming more of who you are, more defined, and more powerful. He's actually looking forward to aging now, because he wants to grow into the man that you deserve. He's decided that he wants to mature with you, side by side, and that the best years are not behind you, but ahead. It's an incredibly empowering realization for him, and it has removed every bit of hesitation he had about your age gap. He realizes that you aren't just his partner for now. You are his partner for the long game, and he is ready to play it for as long as you'll have him. What makes him feel so incredibly protective of the specific way you handle your finances and your professional independence? He sees the way your autonomy frustrates people, the way they want to peg you as someone who either needs saving or needs to be provided for, and he finds it deeply insulting on your behalf. He loves that you don't need his money or his professional connections, and he finds that level of self-sufficiency to be the most intoxicating thing about you. When he hears others make snide, coded remarks about your lifestyles not matching up, he feels a sharp, jagged spike of anger. He wants to drag those people into the light and show them that your independence is actually the very thing that makes you the most powerful person in any room. It makes him feel like he's dating royalty, and he's fiercely proud that he's the only one you've invited to walk by your side. Why does he feel that your presence has fundamentally altered the way he navigates his own professional world? He used to be a yes man, someone who would blend into the background just to keep the peace and climb the ladder in the most predictable way. But now, he catches himself mimicking your style. He's become more discerning, more calculated, and far less willing to accept crumbs. He watches how you negotiate, how you ignore the drama, and how you never apologize for your ambitions, and he's integrated those traits into his own workflow. He's stopped seeking validation from his superiors and started demanding it through his results. He's literally becoming a more formidable opponent in his own field because he's learned from the best, and he doesn't care who notices that he's changed. How does he respond to the subtle, manipulative tactics that women in his social circle use to try and diagnose your relationship as a toxic one? He treats them with the kind of clinical coldness that makes them physically recoil. When they pull that classic move of acting concerned for his well-being, or dropping hints about how you're allegedly holding him back, he doesn't just shut it down. He dissects it. He asks them, with a very calm, dead-eyed expression, exactly why they are so obsessed with his private life. He loves the way their faces flush when they realize they've been caught in a lie. He's realized that their concern is just a thin veil for their own desire to see him fail. He finds it deeply satisfying to expose their hypocrisy, and he's learned that a little bit of blunt, savage honesty is the best way to keep them at arm's length forever. Why does he feel such a strange sense of comfort in the scandal that your relationship creates in your local community? It's because he feels like you are both finally living a life that matches your internal intensity. For years, he felt like he was playing a part in a play he didn't write. The scandal, the whispers, the staring, it all feels like the background music to a much more exciting movie. He feels like the villain in their story, but the hero in his own. He thinks there is something incredibly romantic about the way the world tries to push you apart, only to fail at every turn. It creates a sense of shared hardship that isn't really hard at all. It's just the price of admission for a life that is fundamentally more interesting than the lives everyone else is living. What is it about your silence that he finds so much more intimidating than a full-blown argument? He has realized that your silence isn't passive. It's an active, sharp-edged weapon. When he sees you go silent during a disagreement, he knows that you aren't waiting for him to finish. You're observing, processing, and deciding if he's even worth the effort of an explanation. That realization keeps him honest. It forces him to constantly check his own behavior and ensure that he is acting from a place of integrity. He finds it fascinating that a woman who can command a room with a look is the same woman who lets him in, and that privilege makes him want to be as clear and honest as he possibly can. He's addicted to that level of intellectual rigor. Why does he feel that your influence is the reason he's finally starting to cut off the dead weight in his life? It's because you provided the frame of reference. For the first time, he has a comparison point. He has you, someone who is intentional, sharp, and focused. When he looks back at the people he used to spend his time with, he sees the stagnation. He sees the people who are still talking about the same problems from 3 years ago, still complaining about the same minor slights, and still stuck in the same mental loops. He realizes that if he stays connected to them, he'll be sucked back into that same stagnation. He's purging his life of these people not because he's angry, but because he's moving too fast now to carry the extra luggage. He's becoming more efficient, more focused, and much, much harder to reach. How does he feel when he sees your name pop up on his phone in a public space where he knows others are watching? He feels a rush of pure, unadulterated ego. He loves the fact that you, someone who is clearly on a different level, are checking in on him. He knows that everyone around him is dying to know what you're texting him, and that makes him feel like he's holding a winning ticket. He's very deliberate about how he interacts with that phone. He'll smile, maybe keep it brief, and put it away with a look of total satisfaction. He wants them to see that he's connected to someone who demands his attention, and he wants them to know that he's the one who gets to answer. It's a quiet, private victory that he plays out over and over again. What is the biggest fear he hides from you regarding the eventual peak of your relationship? He's terrified that he might hit a wall where he feels he's given everything he has, and it still won't be enough to match your life experience. He knows you have a depth of history, of pain, and of triumph that he hasn't even begun to touch. He worries that one day you might wake up and realize he's just a student in the school of life, and you're the headmaster. But then, he reminds himself that you chose him. You aren't with him because he's a finished product. You're with him because you see the potential in him to eventually stand as your equal. That thought is the only thing that keeps his anxiety at bay, and it drives him to work even harder to close that gap, not by pretending to be older, but by being the most capable version of himself. Why does he think that the people who hate your relationship the most are actually the people who wish they were in it? He's noticed a pattern. The loudest critics are the ones who are the most dissatisfied with their own choices. He sees the envy in the way they look at him, and the hidden longing in the way they look at you. They are projecting their own regret onto you. He thinks it's almost tragic in a way, because they had the opportunity to take risks, to be bold, to reach for someone who challenged them, and they took the safe route instead. Now, they are watching you, and it's a constant, painful reminder of what they left on the table. He doesn't even feel superior anymore. He feels a kind of cold, detached pity. They're stuck, and you're moving, and that's the difference that burns them from the inside out. How does he describe the feeling of winning against the societal norms that say you shouldn't be together? He doesn't call it winning. He calls it liberation. He feels as though he's broken out of a matrix of expectations, social contracts, and outdated ideas about how relationships should function. He feels like he's discovered a secret room that everyone else is too afraid to enter. He's enjoying the view from here, and he has no intention of ever going back to the way things were. He realizes that the struggle was never against society. It was against his own fear of being seen as different. Once he embraced that, everything else fell into place. He's perfectly content to be the odd one out, because being the odd one out means being with you. and that is a trade he would make 1,000,000 times over. What makes him feel so confident that, regardless of what happens, the bond you have created is now a permanent part of his identity? It's because he's been through the fire with you, the public scrutiny, the judgment, the internal struggles, and he's come out on the other side. He knows exactly who he is when he's with you, and he knows that he can never go back to being that lost, drifting guy. You've left a mark on his psyche that can't be erased. Even if you were to walk away tomorrow, he would still be the man you shaped. That's a powerful, terrifying, and wonderful realization for him. He knows that his life has been split into two parts, before he met you and everything that has happened since. He's never going back, and he's decided that the only way forward is to keep holding on, tighter than ever before. Why does he feel that the physical intimacy you share is the only place where he truly feels level with you? It's because, in the rest of his life, he constantly feels like he's playing catch-up, trying to learn your lessons, trying to match your composure, trying to keep pace with your intellect. But when the lights go down, that gap vanishes. In the bedroom, he isn't the younger partner or the student. He is the man who has your total, undivided attention and the power to elicit a response from you that no one else can replicate. It's the one place where his instincts are just as sharp as yours, and where he feels entirely in command. He craves that space because it's the only area where he doesn't have to think. He just has to be. And that raw, primal connection is what anchors him to you when the outside world feels overwhelming. What makes him so fiercely protective of the private, inside jokes that only the two of you share? Those jokes are the secret code that keeps the world at bay. When he hears others talking about your relationship, he loves having a private, internal reaction that only you understand. It's like being in a bunker while the rest of the world is screaming outside. He knows that they can't touch what you have, because they don't even speak the same language. That shared reality, built on nothing but your mutual understanding, is the most intimate thing he owns. It makes him feel like he's the only person in the world who really knows the woman behind the public mask, and that feeling of exclusivity is a high that he chases every single day. How does he perceive the way you navigate social gatherings where you are clearly the most powerful person in the room, despite not trying to be? He watches you with a sense of pure, unadulterated awe. He loves that you don't perform, you don't posture, and you certainly don't seek approval. You just exist, and that presence is so heavy that it forces everyone else to orbit around you. When he stands next to you in those moments, he feels a surge of reflected power. He's proud to be the one on your arm, the one you chose to stand beside. He feels like he's in the presence of a force of nature, and he's realized that his role isn't to compete with your light, but to be the one who stands in the shadows and holds the door open for you to walk through. Why does he feel such a strong, almost violent resentment toward anyone who implies that he is lucky to be with you? He hates that word because it suggests that your commitment to him is some kind of cosmic accident or a stroke of good fortune, rather than a deliberate, earned choice. He wants everyone to understand that he didn't just stumble into this. He worked for it, he fought for it, and he continues to earn it every single day. Being with you isn't a lucky break. It's the result of his own transformation and his refusal to settle for anything less than a high-level partnership. When people call him lucky, he sees it as them diminishing your judgment. It implies that you don't know what you're doing, and he finds that deeply offensive because he knows exactly how discerning and ruthless you can be with your time. How does he handle the moments when he sees you dealing with your own past regrets or memories that he wasn't part of? He becomes the ultimate pillar of strength. He knows he can't ever fully understand the weight of your history, so he doesn't try. Instead, he focuses on being the steady presence that helps you stay grounded in the present. He's learned that he doesn't need to have all the answers to your pain. He just needs to be the one who is still there when the storm passes. He finds these moments deeply moving because he realizes that you trust him enough to let him see the cracks in your armor. He takes that responsibility very seriously, and it strengthens the bond between you in ways that public adoration never could. Why does he feel that he is actively being forged into a new type of man under your guidance? It's because he's finally being held to a standard that he never had to meet before. You don't tolerate excuses, you don't entertain incompetence, and you don't put up with performative nonsense. That pressure has been the single most effective tool for his personal development. He feels like he's in a crucible, being burned down to his barest essentials and rebuilt into someone who is more capable, more focused, and more ruthless. He's aware that this is a painful, often grueling process, but he's addicted to the result. He sees himself growing into the man he always wanted to be, but never knew how to access. And he knows that you are the catalyst for that entire evolution. How does he respond to the subtle, toxic energy of women who used to be in his life and who now try to warn him about you? He's reached a point where he just finds them sad. He sees their fear, their smallness, and their desperate need to pull him back down into their level of mediocrity. When they say things like, "She's just going to leave you when she's bored," he just looks at them with a mixture of confusion and pity. He's realized that they aren't warning him about you. They are warning him about themselves. They are projecting their own fear of abandonment and their own insecurity about their worth. He's stopped defending you because he realizes that you don't need his defense. You are perfectly capable of defending your own reputation. He just smiles, dismisses them, and turns back to you, feeling a renewed sense of gratitude for the life you've built. What is it about your consistency that keeps him from ever feeling the need to look elsewhere? In his past relationships, there was always chaos, always the threat of change, and always a sense of instability. With you, he knows exactly what he's getting, every single day. You are rock solid. Your values, your temperament, and your focus are unwavering, and that consistency is the most stabilizing force in his life. He doesn't have to guess what you're thinking or worry about whether you're going to blow up the relationship over some minor, petty disagreement. He feels safe, and in that safety, he's found the freedom to actually pursue his own goals and his own dreams. He's realized that stability isn't boring. It's the foundation upon which he can finally build a life worth living. Why does he feel that your relationship is a form of social rebellion? He sees the way society tries to force people into boxes, age-appropriate boxes, status-appropriate boxes, life-stage-appropriate boxes. You two are the ultimate middle finger to those categories. You didn't ask for permission to be together, you didn't seek the blessing of his family or your friends, and you don't follow the rules of traditional dating. That defiance is the heartbeat of your relationship, It's what makes you feel like you're doing something forbidden, even though you aren't doing anything wrong. He loves the thrill of walking down the street with you, fully aware that people are whispering, and knowing that he doesn't give a damn what they think. He's learned that real freedom comes from being willing to be hated for being happy, and he's fully embraced that role. How does he think about the legacy of your bond? He's started to think about it in terms of long-term impact. He's not just looking for a partner for the next few years. He's looking for someone who will be his partner through every single phase of his life. He sees you as the cornerstone of his future. Even when he's old, he wants to be sitting on a porch with you, looking back at the life you built. A life that was forged in the face of judgment and powered by a love that no one else was bold enough to take. He's not just building a relationship. He's building a monument to his own courage and your wisdom. He knows that no matter what happens, he will always be the man who chose you, and that will be the most significant decision of his entire life. Why is he so sensitive to any sign that you might be pulling back, even if it's just for a moment? It's because he's painfully aware of the gift he's been given, and he's terrified of squandering it. He knows that you are the most valuable thing in his world, and even a micro shift in your energy feels like a potential catastrophe. He's hyper-vigilant about maintaining the connection, always checking in, always making sure he's showing up in the way you need. It's not about being needy. It's about being observant. He's learned to read your signals better than he reads his own emotions. He views it as his primary job to keep the flame burning, and he's determined to make sure that the light of your interest in him never flickers, let alone dies. What is the biggest thing he hopes he can give back to you? He wants to give you the one thing you've had to provide for yourself for a long time, a place where you don't have to be the strongest person in the room. He wants to be the one who takes care of the small details, the one who anticipates your needs, and the one who creates a space where you can finally just exhale. He knows you've lived a life of having to be everything to everyone, and he wants to be the one person you can rely on to handle the burden, even if it's just for an hour or a day. He wants to prove to you that your strength hasn't gone unnoticed. And he wants to be the man who honors that strength by giving you the space to be vulnerable. That's the highest honor he can imagine, and he's working every single day to earn it.